Today I'm going to show you how you can increase your show rates and make calls easier to close using propaganda concepts. And what I mean by propaganda is that you are actively showing your leads exactly what you want them to see so they can have a certain framing, a certain perspective about the call, about the webinar, about the event you're running, so they can actually show up for that, okay? And one mistake I see people make when it comes to show rates is that they're worried about scheduling problems. So they think that the leads are not showing up because they're not sending enough reminders. The leads are not showing up because they're not sending enough emails. And yes, you should have those in place, but 9 times out of 10, what's happening is a framing problem, okay? The problem is how you're framing your call, it's how you're framing the call with the setter even, okay? It's how you're framing the webinar, it's how you're framing the event, okay? Or even there are leads who buy VIP tickets and they don't show up for the VIP sessions, okay? That happens even when you're dealing with qualified audiences where they just spend the money to buy the VIP tickets and they end up not even showing up for that. That's a framing problem. Sometimes that can happen, okay? Now, why is show rate so important? You can increase the output of your input without having to change your input, okay? So what I mean is you are able to, let's say you're spending $10,000, you're getting, just an example, 10 calls booked. And out of those 10 calls, you are just getting 7 people to show up, okay? If you increase the amount of people showing up and you maintain your close rate, you'll be able to make more money out of the same ad spend. That's why looking into the show rates of a business is the first thing I do when I'm doing a consulting call, because it's the easiest one for me to make changes, because you don't need to hire more people, you don't need to change the ad spend, you don't need to change the format of content, I don't know. You just need to improve the propaganda you're doing for your leads so they can actually show up and you can actually make more money, no matter how much ad spend you're investing into ads, no matter how many leads you're getting from organic. You are going to get a better output, okay? Because you are dealing in one of the last parts of the whole funnel, the show rate. As you can see here, instead of increasing ad spend, you can just get more out of the calls you're already booking, okay? So you make more money with the same ad spend. Instead of worrying about generating more leads, let's say from organic, from, I don't know, if you have a cold outreach method. If you increase your show rate, you are going to increase the amount of people that are showing up for calls and therefore closing with you. And here's the crazy part, because not only will you get more calls booked, but the calls that are going to book and show up will actually close easier, because you are giving them a whole process to improve the framing of the call, and that's going to affect how they interact with the closer, how they listen to the closer, how they pay attention to a webinar, for example. And therefore, it's going to make them easier to close. Another example, instead of hiring more salespeople, you can make each closer's calendar more productive. You just need to give them more leads to close, and for them to close those leads, they need to show up for that call. And that's exactly what you're doing, okay? And like I said, instead of focusing on, I don't know, changing your closers because they are not that effective, by running the same system, you'll be able to make the calls easier, and it's going to be easier for those closers who might not be the best closers in the world to actually close. Again, what I mean by propaganda is you're building their beliefs. Copy, marketing, persuasion is all about finding out exactly what your lead audience believes about you, about their problem, about the solution, about what it means to show up for that call. And you need to reframe all of that so the call seems like something valuable. The calls seems like something that is going to improve their lives, okay? And not showing up for the call needs to feel like their lives are going to get worse. I'm going to talk more about that later, okay? So first level for you to improve is to make it feel like booking the call, making the opt-in for the webinar is just the starting line. What I see happen is that most people will, as soon as a lead books a call or as soon as a lead opt-ins for a webinar, the thank you page seems like a celebration page, okay? They have a video of the expert congratulating them and saying them how good that was, just showing success stories, which you need to do, but with a different framing. And I'll talk more about that. And what is happening here is that if you give them a dopamine hit too high after they book a call, they're going to have less motivation to actually show up, to actually view the call as the thing they actually need to take action on, okay? How do you do this? How do you do this effective? You're not going to show up how success stories, only success stories. You're also going to show, let's say in your thank you page, in the video, in the testimonials, you're going to show anti-visions. And what I mean by anti-visions is you're going to show up what happened to people that booked a call, opting for a webinar, they didn't take action, they didn't show up for the call, they got stuck in the same situation, and worse, instead of just staying at their baseline, their situation actually got worse, okay? And that's key, okay? They can't believe that their situation is just going to stay the same, okay? We don't want to have anything removed from our quality of life. And if you show that their situation is going to be worse, it's going to get worse, that's going to make them actually want to show up for the call. Now, next one is a problem that I see not only for show rates, but in marketing and the whole propaganda part of a business. And what I say is, especially in the info and the coaching business, nowadays, most of the funnels, most of the operations for coaching business, info product business, they rely a lot on sales team. They are sales first. And that's good. You should have killer sales teams. But when you look at their marketing, when you look at their pre-call processes, when you look at their ads, it's all mid because the whole business is relying on the sales team to actually close high ticket deals, usually while pressuring the lead, okay, which creates buyer's remorse. And buyer's remorse doesn't matter if you're trying to build a quick cash grab, something that's going to just get the money out of your clients and just, leave them be. But if you want to build a sustainable business for the long term, you want to worry about not giving them buyer's remorse because you want higher LTVs, okay? You want them to actually buy again. And if they start their journey with you with buyer's remorse, that's going to set them on the wrong foot, and it's going to be harder for you to upsell them or get them to buy again from you. No. Okay, so like I'm saying here, you need to focus on your ads. You need to focus on how you're positioning the call since from your webinar, from your VSL, okay? You need to think about, is this look like a pitch fest for them? Is this look like something that I need them to book? Like you're being too needy on the VSL. The frame should be one of you're giving them an opportunity to talk with someone that has knowledge about their situation and that can help them, okay? And we are going to deal with all of this today. Now, 2 foundations you need to be aware of to apply everything that I'm going to mention here. Because for you to actually build beliefs, for you to actually create framing, 2 things are important. You need congruence, and to have congruence, you need tracking. So what I mean by congruence is it's not only just putting the same colors in your page, in your ads, and doing that, pretty branding, but it's about all the concepts you're using. Let's say you have 2 ads. One ad is talking to younger women who are trying to lose weight and they have to deal with college. Now, let's say you have another ad who is also talking to women that are trying to lose weight, but it's older women and women that are dealing with marriage, for example. Those are 2 different personas from the same business. And you need to keep that congruence throughout your whole funnel. From the moment they click your ad until the moment they show up for the call and the closer gets the deal. You need to keep the emails congruent. You need to keep the VSLs congruent. You need to keep the messages you're going to send them congruent because all this process is about momentum. You need to create momentum for them to actually take action. They need to feel like in a trance. If you are incongruent, you're going to break that trance because it's going to break momentum and they're going to doubt if this is the right option for them. So let's say you have someone who clicked on an ad talking about how to start e-com stores for beginners. Let's say you have a program for optimizing e-com stores and you have an ad talking to beginners, people who are trying to get their store started. And you also have an ad for people who are a bit more advanced and they try to scale. If, let's say you have the same email for both and the guy who is a bit more advanced, he reads your email and it's talking about things that are more directed to the people who are just starting, you're going to break momentum. There's going to be incongruence. Now, you need to track everything. You need to track the ad they clicked. You need to track the emails they responded to, like the emails they clicked on a link, for example, and you need to feed that information to your setters and to your closers, okay? I see a bunch of business that they do the tracking, they know the data, but then the closer is blind to it. He's not receiving that information. And even though you might have closers who are not willing to look at that information very deeply, just by reading and being aware of exactly what the lead is after. Look, he clicked on this ad specifically, he clicked on this landing page, he watched this VSL, he read this email. Just by the closer being aware of that, he's going to be able to close the lead easier during the call because he'll be able to focus on what actually matters for the lead. So tracking and congruence, keep that in mind when you're doing this whole process of propaganda, okay? Now, how do you look at each part of your funnel? Because like I said, it's all about momentum. So you need to be aware of the whole funnel, and each part of the funnel has a very specific process you need to go through with the lead so you can do belief engineering. For example, your ad's about calling out their persona, their pain, okay? Setting an angle. Let's say you're talking about weight loss. You're going to talk about objections in the ad. You're talking about testimonials. You need to be aware of all of that you're using in the ad so you have the data, okay? Now, here's an important part. One of my favorite ways for you to get people to show up for a call is to make them invest into your brand. And you can make that through effort or through money. Let me give you a quick example of effort. If you make a lead go through an application and they need to type the exact situation, what they are looking for, and you add that bit of friction, that's going to demand effort from their side. And they're making an investment, and that's going to make them more willing to show up for the call. If it was just, let's say, you ran an ad and the ad goes directly to the booking page and they just click 2 buttons and they book the call. Okay, that's very different. Now, what is the best way for you to create commitment with the lead? Is to run a front-end offer. And the purpose of running a front-end offer is because you can position the call different, okay? And this is all about framing. So the goal of your front-end is to deliver a quick win. By delivering a quick win, so let's say you're doing a low-ticket product where you're talking about how they are going to get a diet, let's say. You don't need to make them lose weight through the diet. You don't even need to make them go through that diet. If they buy your product, they open that diet and they feel good, like they feel like they're getting information, they're getting value, you are giving them an emotional quick win. Okay, so that's enough. If you have a good product, a product that looks good, it doesn't even need to give them huge results. It needs to look good, make them feel better about their journey they are going to go on. You make them have more clarity about what they need to do, and they don't even need to act upon that clarity, okay? They're going to feel that clarity, and that's going to give them an emotional quick win. Now, that way, you're continuing to create momentum. Happy clients buy again. Happy clients are going to book calls. Happy clients are going to show up for calls. Now, the key here is how you position that call. Your goal is to position the call as a way for them to get even more out of the product they just bought. So what I see is someone will run VSL funnel. So it's like VSL to book a call and, position the call so they can actually show up for the call. And inside the VSL, they're going to be like, this closer is going to help you go through an asset or something, okay? That's way less powerful than if you actually gave them the asset before the call. They would go through the asset, they would open the asset. Sometimes you can give them something that makes them feel overwhelmed. Like you give them so much information, they're going to feel overwhelmed, but they're going to see the value in that. They're going to be like, okay, there is so much here, I can't do this alone. Then you're going to position the call as an implementation call, as an onboarding call. Okay, onboarding calls can work. For example, you can give them the low ticket, and as soon as they buy the low tickets, you give them a free bonus. And that bonus can only be redeemed inside a call. For example, there is a company and that does like tests for like blood tests, okay? And the low ticket would be the actual blood test they would do, okay? Now, for you to understand the results of that blood test, you would need to get on a call. The closer would go through the results with the lead, okay? So they would show up for the call, they would get value out of the call, and they would create momentum. Again, momentum is the key word here. And by creating momentum, they would be even more willing to actually close, okay? So see how it's a snowball, okay? Not only are you increasing your show rates, but you are also increasing your close rates, and you're decreasing actually the amount of buyer remorse you have, because you don't need to be as aggressive with the sales calls. Now, instead of just doing discovery calls, instead of doing strategic calls or just call, okay, you can do things like implementation call, fast track call, onboarding call, just like I said, and you can use that to change the framing in their minds, because especially if you have a front-end offer, with that front-end offer, you are lowering their guards because they already bought a product from you. You have an excuse for them to actually jump on a call. If you didn't sell them anything, if you didn't get anything from them, it doesn't feel congruent for you to deliver something on the call, but they're going to feel like they paid for that value you're giving them because they bought the front end. And you can even add the call as a bonus, so it feels like they actually paid for the call and they will want to show up for the call. Of course, they're going to get value from the call, but also you're going to create that momentum so they can actually close and move forward. And on a tangent here, you can also position the product as a way for you to break objections, overcome objections. A great framing for you to use is they're going to by buying the front end, you can say to them, look, you are spending money to solve this problem. That means one, they are telling themselves that they have that problem. So even subconsciously, consciously, they're saying to themselves, okay, I have this problem. Two, I'm willing to spend money on this problem. And then the closer just needs to position the high tickets, the mid tickets, as a way for them to solve that problem faster and better, okay? And then they're going to be like, okay, if I'm willing to spend money with this problem, if I really want to solve this problem, then it is worth it for me to spend a bit more and get my exact outcome faster and better. Because they can't say to themselves that this is not a priority because they actually bought something for this, okay? They can't say to themselves that is not a problem they have because they bought a product to solve that problem, okay? Now, about the booking page, so before they actually book the call, they're going to be landing on a page. This is basics, so you just want to tell them exactly what will happen, what they will live with. Let's say you have a front-end offer, and the example of the blood tests. They will live with a clear picture of exactly what they need to do, the exact food that's hurting them, I don't know, that's messing with their gut, and they're going to have a clear view of exactly what they are getting from the call. Because if you don't give them enough clarity, the first thing their brains are going to go to is pitch, okay? So because everyone is doing pitches on calls and they don't position the call right, they are defaulting to the worst possible case, and which is, I'm going to join this call, there's going to be an annoying closer there, and he's going to push a product for me. Instead, you want to give them step-by-step breakdown of exactly what's going to happen inside the call, so they can feel those questions in their mind. Now, after they actually book the call, there are two things you should worry about. First is your confirmation page, your thank you page, of course, most important, and the one you should have like from the get-go, okay? This is the most important one. And also one that people overlook is retargeting ads, okay? So what is happening is your lead, they took an action. They took an action that triggered a metapixel that said that someone that is looking for that specific solution. So if you're selling something in the wealth niche, Facebook is going to deliver to that lead more offers in the wealth niche. So your lead just booked a call with you. They have a bunch of momentum because you're doing all of these things to create that momentum. And as soon as they leave all of that, they are watching ads from your competitors and you're not running any ads anymore. So you're not showing up in their feed anymore. And what can happen is, if the ads from your competitors are very good, better than yours, actually running any ads after they book a call, they will start to wonder if they made the right choice, okay? And all that momentum you built can be used for them to actually book a call and show up for the call, because they are building even more momentum because they booked the call again. So instead, you want to run retargeting ads. And the purpose of those retargeting ads is to, again, build propaganda, okay? You're going to create propaganda for them. They need to look at your ads and reaffirm the choice they just made. So they need to think like, okay, I booked a call with this guy and this guy is the best one at this specific niche, at this specific market. I made the right choice, okay? So you need to run retargeting ads with proof, concepts, authority, okay, talking about how your mechanism is better than everyone else's. You need to talk about objections around the call, okay, so any reasons your lead might have to not show up for the call. And if you have, let's say you're running an operation and it's just you and a closer, you can run retargeting ads with the closer, okay, so you and the closer talking, you and the closer, going over a testimonial, okay. One thing that works great is like a screen recording of a Zoom call, and it's you, a closer, and another person, okay? And the person is talking about their experience. Because you want to introduce the closer, because you are going to break that momentum if they are just seeing your face everywhere, you're talking about your story, your authority, and then they jump on a call and it's, I don't know. And I'm going to talk more about that later in the next step, but you just want to focus on creating ads that are going to, again, build momentum. Momentum is keyword. You need to give them proof, give them authority, give them testimonials, case studies, okay? And of course, you need to always be congruent. You need to always be tracking what they're doing, what they're interacting with, okay? Now, about the confirmation page. So, basics of confirmation page. You should have a VSL there, not just a bunch of text. You should have instructions for them to actually put the event in their calendar, because nowadays you can't just schedule on their calendar the event. It's not automatic anymore. It used to be. Nowadays they need to click a few buttons to actually do it. You need to show it. You can either show this on the VSL, that works great, okay? You go in your computer, screen record, and you go in there and you confirm the event. Or you can just screenshot an email of that event where they can actually click to confirm it. Also, there are a few things you can do. You can run automations if they actually do that, where you can promise them a bonus if they actually confirm it, okay? And it's all about making them take the next step so they can actually, again, build momentum, and then they can actually create a snowball effect where they're going to show up for that call. Now, other things you can do is actually using reframing inside the VSL. So the way you talk to them after they book a call, that matters, okay? It must feel like you're doing them a favor, giving them something. You're giving them the opportunity to get more value, to actually move forward and solve their problems. Okay, and you can actually add the close intro, but this is for later. Okay, so next one is about positioning the closer. Just like I said, if you're doing all these steps and it's just you showing up, it's just you talking about your knowledge, okay, and then they jump on a call and they show up at the call. This is not related to show rates initially. You might think that this is just about closing because they will respect the closer more, and that's true. But if they have certainty about exactly who they are meeting in the call, because everyone knows you're probably running a bunch of closers, and they know that they are going to show up at the call and there's going to be someone that they don't know. If you position the closer as someone that's able to give them value, an authority figure, they will respect the closer more and they will actually want to show up for the call. And how do you do this? You are going to do a closer hype video, okay? So you're going to do a closer hype video. Basically, you can just get on a Zoom call with your closer, each one of them, okay, separately, one video for each. And it's going to be like 30 to 60 seconds. You just say their name, introduce them, tell the lead how great any accomplishments they have, okay? And have the closer say something that around the lines of, I'm expecting for you there, happy to provide value, yada, yada, okay? That way, they're going to position the closer better and they're going to actually respect and show up for the call. So again, you're increasing your show up rates and you're increasing your close rates because now the lead has more context around the closer and they respect them more. And they will be with their quads down because it's not positioned as a closer, but instead a coach. Or if you don't want to record a video with each closer, you can just have them record a video alone. And in that video, they're going to do the same thing, but without you. And they can just show something that proves that they are in your team, they are special, they have any accomplishments, you know. For example, if you're doing something like fitness coaching and your closers, your coaches, they have like a transformation story. You can record a video with, actually they can record the video alone where they show the lead their transformation and then they ask them to show up at the call because they can have a similar transformation. Now, let's talk about the unsexy part, okay? Because this is not like secret keys, secret techniques, but it's just about doing the basics correctly. So let's first off, you need to have questions in your Calendly, in your application. So again, you have a bit more friction. so they can answer those questions. Mostly you want to do just check boxes and a few texts, okay? So the check boxes are for you to create momentum. So you're going to give them a few check boxes where there's going to be two options. For example, there's going to be two options. Option number one is, yes, I'm ready for this. I want to change my life. I want to get these results. And option two is, no, I don't want this. I don't want to change my life. I don't want these results. Guess which one the closer, the lead is going to click. The lead is going to want to click this because the reasoning behind the second option is bad, okay? If you just put like yes and no, that's not as powerful and as you putting a reason behind each option. So you're going to use checkbox for that, for, doing qualifications, for doing automations, because you can do like, if they answer this checkbox, you can send them a specific asset, specific video. If they answer another checkbox, you can disqualify them from the whole process, and that's going to help you with congruence, again, congruence and tracking. Now, other things you can do is to embed the scheduling tool, okay? Instead of having them go through a bunch of buttons, as soon as they end the application, they get redirected to the page to book a call. If they answer the application and they don't book a call for any reason, you can have sequences for that. For SMS, if you're doing any automations, be aware that in America, North America, people use more SMS. I don't know about Canada. I don't know if they are using WhatsApp, but I know that USA, they're using SMS, iMessage, okay? So you need to focus more on that. If you are in Europe, you're doing like Europe markets, or anything related to that, you can use WhatsApp, okay? Again, what you can do is add profile pictures to setters, closers, create an automatic group chat with the closer and the experts, where you can automate like voice message from the expert, from the closer, and that's going to create even more connection with them. And also one thing that I like to do is to make them be able to just book a call in the next 3 days, okay? So don't allow them to book a call in like a week from now. Allow them to book a call in the next 3 days and have a button that if they can't find a spot for them, they can just click that button and that's going to open another calendar. You can send them that calendar later with more spots, okay? And what you can do is, for the first calendar, you're going to put just the first 3 days, okay? If they click the button, you're going to redirect them to another calendar that waits 3 days for them to actually book a call, because then it makes more sense. Then you just send them a calendar where it's full other spots. They're going to feel like there's something there. You need to, after 3 days, give them the option to book for another 3 days, okay? So to sum up, you need to focus on framing the call. You need to focus on framing the closer. You need to focus on framing the whole process of reading your emails, okay? Reading your SMSs, actually opening anything you send them, actually downloading any assets, okay? You need to frame all of that so they can actually create momentum, create a snowball effect where they're going to actually show up for the call. Always have scheduling in mind. Always have the basics in mind in terms of the pages fast. Do they get the emails? Open rates on emails. And you can't just set and forget the email sequence after people book a call, okay? People worry about the welcome sequence, but they are not worrying about the sequence for the most qualified leads so far, which is actually the people who book the call. Again, focusing on that window, the window from people that book the call and going to show up for the call, is where you can do less input and you're going to increase your output way more, okay? Because you are going to be dealing with the most qualified leads possible. Instead, if you are just focusing on the top of funnel, okay? So yeah, use propaganda to improve your show up rates, use propaganda to improve your close rates, be aware of tracking, be aware of congruence, and just make more money from your ads.